What's your sense of your week one performance and result, Kirk?
Disappointing. It's just wasn't clean enough, wasn't crisp enough, and we paid for it. The results, kind of showed, if you go watch the tape, that it just wasn't good enough. And so we've got to pick up the pieces, as you have to do in the NFL. You're going to get it handed to you from time to time, or you're going to have a game where you say that wasn't up to our standard, and you have to figure it out quickly, get it fixed, and then another great opponent is showing up the next weekend, and that's kind of where we find ourselves.
You saw a heck of a lot of number 90, man, on Sunday in T.J. Watt. What is it like when you're under center or in shotgun and you see him out of your peripheral? What's that like?
Yeah, I mean, he's a special player. His career has kind of told that story. Great effort and a smart player. He did a good job kind of trying to time up the snap count. He's got a good rush plan. He plays hard in the run game too. It's not just the pass game. And every team is really looking for a player like that on their D line. And if they don't have one, they're usually drafting one in the first round or signing one in free agency, because every team knows the difference that those guys make. And he certainly impacted the game. And and as we face other guys kind of like him in that mold, we've got to kind of all hands on deck, to make sure we handle it.
Well, how are week ones different now compared to when you first hopped in the league, Kirk? Because, it just seems like there's not a lot of preseason action or training camp action or practice action to get out there. And then there's somebody like yourself who's coming back from an Achilles injury and wanted to make sure that you would be ready and healthy. Is there sort of a preseason feel to a week one in the NFL right now, would you say, Kirk?
Hard to say. I think we started sharp, if you will. We moved the football. We converted our first third down. We had a 12-play drive, I think it was, to start the season. Ended up kicking a field goal, but executed pretty well. It was more just over 4 quarters. Did not play, great football. And the reality is in football, you have to string together 5, 10, 12 plays in a row that are flawless to score points on a long drive. And if you have a penalty, if you have a mistake, it can kill the entire drive. And so that efficiency of stringing, 10 plays together is, I think, one thing that was a weakness of ours on Sunday that we've got to clean up moving forward.
So what about you? Do you think, were you rusty because you hadn't played a snap since your Achilles last year, Kirk?
I asked that question to myself, but then when I watched the tape, I thought, I don't know that it's rust. I think there's a level of there's certainly a lot that's new, for all of us, where we're all kind of working together for the first time. But again, we started relatively sharp. We moved down the last drive of the half. Basically went into a 2-minute mode and went right down the field and scored a touchdown. So there were some parts where you say, no, I mean we're playing well, moving the football well, seeing things well, feeling the rush well. But we played a strong defense, and then we just didn't execute up to our standard, which involves so many things, timing up motions and formations and play clock and, just the subtleties of the operation of football that we're going to have to be much sharper at, the rest of the season.
How did you feel physically coming out of the game?
I felt good. Honestly, felt good during the game. Was really pleased with how, my, ankle, if you will, not just Achilles, but my ankle felt. Really felt good, and didn't take any big hits. So, after week one, your typical soreness from a game, but nothing too excessive.
What was Raheem Morris's message to the team, if you wouldn't mind sharing anything? What did he say?
Well, I think the main message would be when you turn the ball over 3 times, you don't deserve to win. So to come out of here thinking, because we had a chance to tie the game on the final possession of regulation, and yet, it was kind of amazing that we had that chance because of how he had played. And so he made the point that the fact that we were even able to tie the game on the last possession says a lot about, what we can do in this room, because we pretty much didn't give ourselves much of a chance the rest of the game. So, and then the ultimate reminder of there are 16 more football games, and they all are their own entity. And when we're sitting here in February looking back on the season, week one doesn't tend to define the whole year. It tends to be the next 16 that do that. So we've just got to keep taking a one day at a time, 1 week at a time approach and stack up strong performances that are much, much better than what Sunday's was.
Yeah, that sounds too nuanced and reasonable for many of us, Kirk, to be honest with you.
Probably not helping you, yeah.
Honestly, I thought your season's over, quite frankly. That's all I've heard for the last 48 hours.
I think that's kind of the way the NFL works, but it's part of what makes it so fun for people. And I think it's important that for us as players and coaches and staff and in the building that we certainly have a different approach, and you kind of ignore the noise, but it doesn't change the fact that when you don't play well, there's going to be noise.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.